Откако на Телма објавивме дел од активностите на Дрин Ахмети, тој ни упати покана за интервју. Ја прифативме, а денот кога беше договорено снимањето почнаа со објава на вреди, дека бил виден како вози бел Rolls-Royce вреден 400.000 евра. Дрин Ахмети негираше, побара извинување од коалицијата, која го презеде местото во власта од ДУИ. KOD уште пред 2 години објави дека Rolls-Royce бил дел од автомобилите на братот на сватот на Али Ахмети. Дрин Ахмети ја демантираше објавата на вреди пред да почне интервјуто во канцеларијата, која од една страна има поглед кон собранието, од друга страна гледа кон обвинителството. Во ова емисија на KOD како гостин за интервју го имаме господинот Дрин Ахмети. Ќе зборуваме на англиски, бидејќи таков беше изборот на гостинот. Mr. Drin Ahmeti, we are now on the 11th floor of Soravia.
Yes.
Who is owner of Soravia?
So, as of now, the title still belongs to Mr. Hana Soravia. However, we have a transaction, a lot of payments were made, an agreement was signed. We have management over the building since August, I believe, 31st of August 2023. We manage the building. And in the coming few weeks, we are also going to change the title to an investment fund, which has a lot of investors, including me, and all the documents and all the necessary facts of how this transaction came to be will be revealed to the whole public, and that will be my request. As of now, the institutions, the 5 institutions we invited on 4th of July to conduct an investigation on the deal, a few days after my press conference when I said that we have signed an agreement for the purchase of Soravia Invest, which is the company that owns the building, and the institutions for 18 months haven't provided any question. We haven't responded to the press, to the news about the transaction, because we did not want to interfere with the investigation. We gave all of the documents that we had, even the trade secrets, the commercial agreements, everything we had in our possession, we gave to the institutions in order to clear our name that if we did something wrong, please tell us what's wrong, what's the fine, or if we didn't do anything wrong, go and tell the public that no crime was committed.
You are saying that transaction before the end of
So, I will explain to you in detail now. So, we had an agreement, a gentleman agreement in Vienna for the purchase of this building, 90% of the shares of this building, and this is proven and the institutions have it and you will see it afterwards, in January 2023. We had an agreement to purchase it. The initial agreement to purchase the building was undertaking the liabilities or obligations of the building or the debt of the building towards the bank, towards other debtors, suppliers, and overtaking the liabilities that Mr. Soravia had inputted for the company's survival. Now, you have reported in the news many times that the company was profitable according to the balance sheet. That is not true. What has happened is that the building appreciation in the books was overvalued in order the building not to lose the loan and to show to the bank that we have profit from appreciation. The cash flow of the building had losses from 1 million to 1.5 million for the last 3 years before we decided to purchase. And we saw that the building was operating at a loss and Mr. Soravia was exiting Eastern Europe, where he was a major investor initially. Then we tried to refinance locally, but because of the press, because of the news, because of the political attacks, because of the pressure, it was impossible for us to refinance locally at the time. So I knew this was a great deal because business-wise, I do my own calculations, I think rather well. And I asked Mr. Drin Ahmeti, which me and him and Hanno were being involved in another project together. So the amount was, the whole amount that he invested in the region to do business with us was 12.3 million euros, or $13.3 million at the time, because he paid in dollars, the conversion rate was 12.3.
In Macedonia especially?
No. So bigger portion of this amount went in Austria, $5.3 million, if I'm correct. A due diligence was done for all the money. I showed you yesterday the papers. You portrait Mr. Drin Ahmeti with something that I don't know and I'm not aware of. How I know Mr. Drin Ahmeti? He was one of the early investors from 1996, proven with documentation from Fidelity in Amazon and NVIDIA. So he was a client for more than 25 years of Fidelity, third largest asset manager in America.
Тука преку оваа зграда во центарот на Скопје се испреплетени финансиски врски со повеќе држави. Во Австрија се актуелните официјални сопственици. Од Америка стигаат пари и се наоѓаат фондови на оние што сакаат да станат нови газди. Во Бугарија се враќаат рати од кредит од 10 милиони евра. Во декември лани, пред неполни 2 месеци, сопственикот на деловниот центар компанијата Соравија Инвест добива уште еден нов сопственик. Покрај австриската компанија Хано Соравија ГМБХ, сопственост добива и компанијата Райтергут ХС ГМБХ од Зибоден, Австрија. Во превод, името на фирмата новиот сопственик значи коњица или поседна коњаник. Двете букви ХС од името на фирмата се исти со иницијалите на Хано Соравија, а и официјалните податоци покажуваат дека сопственик на Райтергут е Хано Соравија. Фирмата е формирана 2019 и се наоѓа на адреса Зудофервек 134 во Зибоден, каде има уште десетина други регистрирани фирми. Адресата буквално значи Јужниот далечен речен брег. Тоа е новата австриска врска, а од Америка досега, како лице кој учествува во процесот, единствено се прикажува Ник Назар Мехмети. Роден во Ресенско, како тинеџер се одселил во Америка кај роднините. Важи за албански патриот, има куќа вредна над 3 милиони долари, председател е на албанско-американска бизнис мрежа. Има повеќе стриптиз барови во Далас, а неговиот партнер од Скопје тврди дека тој има акции и удели во нафтен бизнис, во спортски тимови, во информатички гиганти, а се занимава и со недвижнини. Во официјална база на податоци откривме податок дека Ник Мехмети е директор или председател на 41 различна организација или компанија од кои поголем број имаат екзотични имиња и се од Далас. Меѓу фирмите ја нема Texas American International Holdings, која ја презема тор на Drin Ahmeti. Компанијата Соравија Инвест, освен блокирана банкарска сметка, сега има уште едно ново, така наречено црвено знаменце на бизнис мрежа. Должи кон УЈП. Во разговорот Drin Ahmeti посочи дека сега има проблем за исплата на вработените, но има и разбирање од даночната управа во Македонија. We found the information about Mr. Ahmeti from News America, from
Look,
News.
let me just interrupt you
And
for a second there.
Probably you
Let
should
me-
see that
let-
kind of information. That's my point.
let me explain something. When we provided the documents to the authorities, we provided everything. We said, here is the source of money coming. He sold two larger holdings that he had in Amazon and NVIDIA, funded the account. We had a commercial agreement, and I said, in this commercial agreement, you take everything of what I own, 100%. If I pay you back within this time frame, or the value of business, or I refinance, we make a joint agreement how much are going to be your shares, where is going to be your involvement, where is going to be mine, because we're in business together. And he's the kind of person that with one handshake, he wired the funds. And I said, no, we need first to, you're going to create us problems. He said, why? Because in America, a 12.3 million is nothing. It's like a very small minor transaction for him. Yes. And I was, no, wait, because we have to explain, hold on. So we drafted all the agreements, all the legal insights, we finished the transaction, we gave to the institutions, we said this is the proof of funds, this was paid, this was done.
Well, you're saying me now that we found out a lot of things on the internet about Mr. Drin Ahmeti, that
Correct.
he's from, his roots is from Macedonia, from recent, from
Absolutely, yes.
He's Albanian patriot, he's the director
I can
American
say,
Albanian Diaspora Business, some business
I'm
association.
not aware.
And he's founder and owner on a couple striptease bars in Dallas, Texas. That was on internet.
I don't know his interest in any of those bars. I don't know. I'm aware of the documents that I see. There is rumor about he owns this, he owns that. There's a lot of rumors. If you start believing and chasing after rumors, it's a dead end. I'm telling, when I asked, I said, okay, how are you going to fund the transaction? He said, I'm going to fund the transaction through this income. He provided. I'm not an investigator. If he did something illegal, he would be in prison because it's America. The second thing is, we had another deal with Mr. Drin Ahmeti, a confidential one still, that he was required to provide a background check from the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And he, for that transaction, separate from Soravia, separate from everything, but in the same time window, even a little earlier, he provided a full FBI background check. And the institutions in Macedonia have that background check. And it shows that he has never in his life been involved in any illicit activities.
Yes, but they're still waiting official information from U.S.
to touch
law
that.
enforcement.
So we have a law firm which represents us, Pillsbury Law, one of the largest in the world, headquartered in Washington, D.C. The office that manages us as a client is from London, and where we also have an office as a company. And they told me that the authorities in the United States very rarely and in very rare cases provide information to other countries because they conduct their own investigation. And in this deal, I don't see why there should be such a long period of time when you have one of the largest, if not the largest now, NVIDIA, publicly traded company, owning shares from 1996 or 1997 all the way to 2023, selling a part of these shares, funding the account, and saying, I have a deal to invest in North Macedonia and in the Balkans. Now, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think the country wants to attract foreign investors. People go for a 2 or 3 million investment, even in investments that didn't happen. The whole government goes to cut tapes and promote and say people are coming to invest. And in this case, someone really invests in the country, and we're trying to invest more in the country by providing trust that Macedonia has changed, and it's not the North Macedonia of 30 years ago. It's a different country now with different vibes where people don't care anymore about the infighting and the problems of the 20th century. To move in the 21st century, you have to leave the problems of the 20th century, of the 19th century behind. And I portrayed that everywhere I went to attract investment in this country.
When you said cutting the tapes and opening investment, your uncle, Mr. Ali Ahmeti, he's the leader of BDI, DUI, the party. He and his party members also was part of that kind of situation, manifestation, when somebody cutting tapes.
Yeah.
That's the reason of suspicion in Macedonian society, in our
Okay.
country, that your
Absolutely.
business is coming from his political influence which he earned during two
Let
decades
me
in politics.
okay. Let me explain.
Because you're living almost in the same house.
Let me
in
explain
Zais.
something. Let me make something very clear. I understand that probably I got an advantage to be able to speak with him, share thoughts with him, growing up as a kid. And I'm not saying that that did not shape me. His thinking, his honesty, his truthfulness, and everything that he promotes in life on how someone has to be modest, down to earth, pragmatic, and open.
From the position of power. Now
Well-
he's in position of opposition,
Well,
and he's like,
But
it's
he's
not
been,
the same.
I remember him when he's been in opposition, 2006, as a kid. I remember when DPA at the time came in the school in Zas, was public school when I was teaching, and they came with masked people and with guns. I remember when they were coming to our house like that. It's not.
During opposition time?
Yes, and times have changed, and now it's everything evolves. I'm saying the infighting of the past, the quarrels of the past, what happened in 2001 and before, it's not good for anyone to continue to live on the 21st century.
Okay, we are going on some philosophical stance of your point of view.
Okay.
The biggest question is political influence, possible political influence. The second one,
Zero.
okay, how
Okay, let me explain.
on how young men like you
Okay, I'll get to that.
had that kind of connection and that amount of
Okay.
money
Let
to
me-
buy very big building in the
Three
downtown
things.
of Skopje.
Let me answer you. The first one is that I never ever, from the day that I started and took over of Everest in 2017 from my brother, for 7 years now, almost 8 years, in February it's 8 years, I have never consulted or talked to my uncle about business, ever. And if one help of him or one call of who he called to help me, please let them address to say this happened. First. Second, Mr. Saravia never met my uncle, never knew my uncle. Third, Nick knew of my uncle. He had been only in one event, maybe in 2004 or 5, where there were 50 people from the diaspora and once seen my uncle. Never knew my uncle, never had his phone or anything.
Why they are choosing you?
Well,
That's the question.
Well, that's why I brought Mr. Saravia in the conference when I had it, when we announced. That's why I brought Vladimir in the conference to announce. And I would have done the same with Mr. Nick, but the investigation was ongoing and you were accusing the guy of many things. And
He escaped from the project?
no, he's not escaped, he's in. We are, look, you have to understand, we are not only in Saravia together. We have a lot of projects that we work together because we believe in one idea that an economy like Macedonia, which has a GDP per capita of $7,000–8,000 a year, has to reach the levels of at least Bulgaria, Poland, Czech Republic when it enters EU in 5, 6, 10 years, whenever that time will be, because there's no other end game for Macedonia. Now, in these numbers, there's growth, because we're not developed as a country. That's why you call them emerging economies or developing countries.
Okay,
And
what is your position? I cannot understand. Okay, you are not. You are refusing impact of political influence of
absolutely.
and you are 25. You are not
26.
You are 26. Okay, 26. And you are not son of a rich parents. That's the suspicion.
That's not, no. First and foremost,
I'm
I
not-
had first and foremost I had an inheritance, a company which had assets which were not utilized correctly. 2017, I started on assets which were transferred to me by my brother.
That's Everest.
Yes. So he ran the company for 9 years. 6 of these years were profitably, the last 3 years were not. But the company had a lot of assets. The company I inherited in 2017. So I have some inheritance. Nothing near what it is right now.
Okay, numbers of Everest is for 2023.
Okay.
Revenues, it's about 29 million dinars.
Okay.
It's about
500,000 euros, under
Yes.
500, correct.
the building
Yes.
is not.
No, absolutely. But go back. But sorry, go back to 2004. And this building has a revenue of 3 million euros.
I will say you now. How
Yes, this
You-
building has a revenue of between 2.5 and 3 million over, depending which year.
140 millions
Yes.
dinars. It's
So-
less than 2.5 million euros
Yes.
in 2023.
Yes.
But losing was almost 1 million. Yet, and
Let me explain you what you're looking at.
And
You're-
also,
no,
we
no.
have now two red lines. You see that?
Yes,
It's with
the accounts are locked.
accounts in locked, and you owe to
PRO, Public Revenues
Public
Office.
Revenue Office,
Correct.
yes.
That's correct.
and also in that period, Soravia Invest changing owner. Now's owner, that was in December.
It was transferred,
24.
not changed.
Okay, that was now is
Reiter Gut HS
Reiter Good
GmbH.
agency, yes, from Austria. There's this, and company is also connected with Hanna Soravia.
Yes.
That's a very legitimate
So-
question. Why is going on?
Yes, so let me explain. Because the transaction was made so difficult for all the parties involved to return the building to operate normally. First, the media pressure. Second, the political attacks. Third, the investigation. So there were 3 problems that we had. And in these problems, we needed to find a solution. So the solution was to get to alternative financing, because no one from the conventional financial institutions in the country that would finance such deals would touch us, would even speak to us. So we created a structure, a new fund. We funded this from private investors. And if you want to go one step ahead, I will tell you, the company will be a newly publicly trading company in the New York Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange in the next month.
Which company?
The whole company of what I own, 100% of everything I own, will be publicly listed companies in 2 of the largest stock exchanges in the world. One is the oldest, the London Stock Exchange, and the other one is the biggest, New York Stock Exchange. And everything will be, again, transparent and public and open.
Yeah, but you cannot say that you, as a nephew of Mr. Ahmeti, you know his impact in society in
Well-
Macedonia. You are saying that you didn't expect that. Okay, young nephew.
No,
of-
absolutely not. Because why I didn't expect? Because this had nothing to do with
this
him.
level of corruption,
With-
political influence in the economy in Macedonia, and in all life.
Look, if
You have to be honest.
I can answer for myself.
I'm understanding.
Hold on, let me get to that point. I can answer for myself. If I did something wrong, you think the institutions for 18 months wouldn't have found anything? 18 months, they're quiet. In the meantime, I'm operating businesses in US and UK in information technology, where I work, where my primary field of operations is. Now, I know that there is corruption, and that's why these are called third world countries. This is the reason why we're not part of EU. But part of corruption is also what the institutions did to me. Because you have the documents, you're not telling what I did wrong. If I did something wrong, the public has a right to know. Your money, my tax money, where you can see how much taxes we have paid so far, is funding that prosecution. And for any wrongdoing, we need to pay a price. Depending on the scale of what we did, and if we did something wrong. Nobody came to say you did this wrong. Nobody, I don't even understand the accusation, I really don't understand the accusation for Soravia. It's a private property which was purchased. A deal was signed to be purchased. It's not closed yet as of now. We're hoping to close in the next coming weeks. But a transaction was done private. Who was damaged here? Who was the damaged party?
A transaction is going around Macedonia, not in Macedonia.
Yes, yeah, correct. Because I'm telling you why.
Taxes are not paid here, but
no,
they're paid in
no,
Austria.
that's not true. That's not true. So first,
Not-
no, that's not true. First and
What is
foremost,
not true? That they are
what you
going
said.
around,
No,
or
that-
that we
look.
don't have taxes as a country?
the company is not paying taxes for financing. No company pays tax for financing. What we received from abroad is financing, which in Macedonia is considered an investment. And we are growing the economy of this country by the money we're infusing from abroad, because we're not taking money away from here out. We're bringing money from out there here. And please let me explain. The payment of the share price that happened directly from Albania to Austria and from United States to Austria, that has nothing to do with the building. That has to do with the equity, with the capital that one day, 10 or 15 years ago, Mr. Hano Soravia invested in the country, and it's his right to take this money back. And he has paid taxes here for years, and he's continuing to pay taxes here still. So that point doesn't stand. And I asked the institutions, and I publicly ask everyone to say what we did wrong. Say from this transaction, from all the documents you have, which law was broken. Because we had 4 legal teams working on the transaction. From UK, from United States, from Austria, and from North Macedonia.
KOD минатата година објави истражување дека ланската пролет, во пресрет на изборите, е направена нова трансакција од Америка во вредност од $4,5 милиони кон Тор во Скопје, по што следуваат трансакции кон Виена. Сега даваме повеќе детали за тие трансакции. На почетокот на 2024 на сметката на Тор Industries пристигнуваат 2 уплати од Америка. Првата е во вредност од $1,561,000 американски долари. Назнаката за уплатата е за пренос на удел. Уплатена на 20 февруари 2024. 20 на дена подоцна, на 13 март, Тор и Дрин Ахмети објавија дека тој се повлекува од позицијата сопственик, а фирмата Тор ќе ја преземе Texas American International Holdings. До ден денес во Централниот регистар не е пријавено преземање на Тор и се уште како сопственик е пријавен Дрин Ахмети. Според информациите до кои дојде Телма, со овие над $1,500,000 се извршени позајмици, уплати, набавки и сделки кон неколку десетици лица, дел вработени во Тор, кон правни лица и фирми, кон македонски и британски адвокатски фирми, како и кон криптоменувачница во Косово. Уплатата ја врши Texas American Intel од Далас, Тексас. Има слично име и најверојатно станува збор за иста фирма како од соопштението на Тор во март. Главен директор според официјалните податоци на американската берза е Карен Куриер. Во официјалните документи не се појавува името на Ник Назар Мехмети, иако тој е еден од учесниците во сделката. На 29.2.2024 на сметката на Тор стига втора уплата од $3,144,000 американски долари од истата дестинација. Парите се дел од сделката за Соравија. Еден месец подоцна, на 30 март, Тор уплаќа на сметка во Австрија $500,000. Трансакцијата оди преку Хахо Беталгунг. Назнаката за уплатата е Joint Venture Agreement, односно се врши по договор за заедничко вложување. Според договорот, требало да се изврши уште една уплата за истата цел до крајот на јули во вредност од €1.000.000. Во моментот Тор има блокирана банкарска сметка, покажуваат официјалните податоци на бизнис мрежа. Целата шема на уплатите и трансакциите кон и од Тор за Соравија изгледа вака, а една од уплатите е за преземањето на уделот на Дрин Ahmeti.
Do you feel some changes when we have a new government now, new people in that law enforcement agency? Maybe pressure, maybe contacts. Do you have contacts?
To be honest with you, we have had all the investigation and the most pressure and all the fines and the reason why we have blocked accounts and were decisions of the last government, from what my information is in the company. So from the new government, we have had even a goodwill because the previous one would not restructure our debt to the PRO to unlock accounts so we could operate normally. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or no, but we have reached a good solution with the current Public Revenues Office when they have seen that we're in trouble with this and this is not our doing and we did nothing wrong and that we're trying to help solve the solution of a tax liability which was undertaken and not foreseen in the balance sheet that the tax authority found through the audit, and we had done international audit before we purchased, and that tax liability was not there. And the current tax authority said to us, sure, we're going to help you to restructure this debt and to unlock your accounts.
But they still red flagged you?
Sorry?
They put red flag on...
Yeah, because it's still locked. The account was locked in July, and it's been continuing to be locked.
In July, do you have some transaction? Because according to my
No.
information, you had to pay second rate from the deal about Soravia until end of July.
Hano Soravia, because we changed the agreement, and he was paid earlier.
From you? Or?
No, he was paid from Texas American International Holdings. He was paid for his remaining equity, and he sold his 10% stake. So he exited the country completely.
Okay. Who, again, the question from the beginning. Who is owner of Soravia Invest? Which is parties?
Okay, is the question...
Is this building?
Are you asking...
It's a fund?
No, so we still haven't closed the transaction.
Mm-hmm. With Mr. Soravia?
Yes, we still...
But he's out?
He's
actually.
out. From this project, he's out.
Now you are taking
yes.
the last procedures.
The last procedures.
Okay.
Once we finish the last procedures with him, he will continue to be our partner in the structure, in the fund, that is going to be publicly traded company, and there you can see who will own how many shares, why, and then we can have another show about that if there's explanation needed. But for now we're working on that, and once that's finished, once that's concluded, everything will be public. As of now, we are operating the building, that's true.
Do you have maybe some fear because of this interview? Maybe it will change something?
Sorry?
Maybe something will change after the interview. Maybe state authorities or law enforcement agency go on you after the
I'm
interview.
hoping that the public understands that nothing wrong was done. Because if something wrong was done, there would be a fine, there would be an action, there would be something. No matter how big or small the fine is, or the or the conviction of what we did, if there was something wrong, we should have known by now. And this is not only Drin Ahmeti's deal. This is the deal that 4 different law firms with reputational law firms in all countries, all these 4 countries, took part of and signed. And all of these people that were involved in the transaction signed on this transaction. And all of those documents went to the institutions. So if the institutions say, okay, this is a wrongdoing, they have to say, what is that? And not use the case for Jan Bremer, like us versus them type of politics, using populism to attack someone just because they're the nephew of someone. If there's a link to my uncle in all of this, say this is the link. He knew this guy and he brought that guy and he has an interest here.
I will jump on the, because I saw a couple things on your Facebook profile. It's that you have during the election period you posted, you reposted one post from Mr. Artem Grubi. Now he's a fugitive.
So,
you have connection with him?
No.
You were close with him?
No. So Mr. Grubi and I have met maybe in my life. I have met him maybe 3 or 4 times in public settings. Yeah, 3 or 4 times maybe in public settings. I know him. I know of him from way back. I have been in communication with him in my Facebook account maybe 2015, and he had some innovative ideas for DUI connections with international politics, and that's how I know him. The last 4 years that he was in position, I told you in public settings maybe 3 or 4 times I've met him. I can't recall meeting him before because he was more of a like workaholic, working for the party at the time as chief of staff of my uncle. I was trying with him back in the day to organize, when I was 17 or 18 years old, with Oxford Union, something for my uncle, so I've had some communication then. I asked him for a personal favor once to write me a reference letter for a university in the United States where I was applying. He didn't do it. So that's sort of my relation with him. As for the post, I've never hid it, even though I don't agree with everything from DUI. I always have supported them in every election as a voter, as a member of the party. And as I see it, that's the only real party that really wanted to move processes for integration of Macedonia, North Macedonia now in NATO and in EU, which that's the geopolitical alignment. I believe this because for us, the sunrise is in the west. It's not in the east. That's what I believe in, and that's why I've supported that. What about where he is now or what he's done, I don't know. That's for the institutions to say. As for the blacklist of United States, they extremely rarely make mistakes. So very, very rare cases they've put someone and removed from there, and usually they do their due diligence thoroughly when they take such action, and I don't know what has happened there. I don't have the knowledge to comment on that, but I don't know. For me, if you're blacklisted by the US, something is wrong.
Do you have some fear or some feelings that maybe you could finish on blacklist of United States?
Well, I think not, because
he also worked with very close with American diplomats and
I don't
American
work with
companies.
American diplomats. I've been in Congress, I've been in Senate, and I have connections there with people who have tried to move processes forward in terms of investment from there to North Macedonia and the region. The other thing is I'm a resident there, so I don't know if they have any rule for residents to be put on blacklist, because I think they check before, and my residency was given to me officially on 22nd of October.
this year.
Yes, so the change of my status there. So that's after a lot of things happened, a lot of media pressure, a lot of investigation. So I think the Americans, they rarely make mistakes. And
The
the only
other-
reason why I say rarely make mistakes, because in myself, I don't believe they ever make mistakes, but they're human too, so I'll say it like that.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.